Welcome to Good Enough with the Trauma Therapist, a podcast dedicated to empowering you to take control of your life, learning valuable strategies for healing and looking at mental health through a trauma-informed lens. Get ready to feel empowered and confident in managing your symptoms. And now, here is your host, licensed clinical social worker, EMDR therapist, and certified clinical trauma professional, Jamie Vollmoeller.
Welcome to Good Enough. I am your host, Jamie Vollmoeller, and this week we have Amy Harrington and Nancy Harrington. They are sisters from the Passionistas Project, and I'm going to let them explain what they are all about.
Excellent. Hi, Jamie. Thank you so much for having us. We're really thrilled to be here. We are Amy and Nancy Harrington. We're sisters, and we are the founders of the Fashionistas Project, which is an inclusive sisterhood where passion-driven women come to get support and improve their lives and change the world. So it's at its essence, it's an online community where women can come and be their authentic selves and get resources and classes and workshops, but most importantly, just support one another, lift each other up, celebrate wins, and be there for the losses. So it's just a beautiful, authentic space.
I love that because there's such a need for community. One thing I hear a lot from our clients as a therapist is like, where do you even meet people? Where do you even meet people that are like-minded people? Like that's a whole nother, and accepting and non-judgmental and where you can be yourself. So love all of that. And I guys, I met Amy and Nancy and was informed that they did this whole course on Project 2025 because they are about women's empowerment. And it is obviously very important to any kind of sisterhood to make sure that we have basic rights and freedoms. And I really thought this would be a great opportunity to have you guys come on and talk about that. And in doing that research, because I'm sure doing that research and compiling all of that, there's things that you're like, oh, I didn't know this. But let's start with just your why. Why was it so important for you to make that course? Amy, why don't you give us a...
Yeah, I mean, thank you. Our community is not just business networking, it's also personal growth and social impact. And a lot of the women in our community are either entrepreneurs who are out there doing it all on their own, or they're activists, or they're thought leaders. And so everybody seems to be doing what they're doing, whether it's business or personal growth wise, because they want to help people, because they want to give back. It's a very common personality trait in our community. So it's a good place to come. If you're not political, there's plenty for you to do there. But in this time period where the election is, bearing down on us, the concept of politics and especially as it relates to women's rights has really been at the forefront of everybody's mind. So we, we're always just keeping our eyes and ears open about things that are impacting women. And it became very clear that Project 2025 was going to be an issue for women first and foremost. So that's what started us looking into it, was how it was addressing topics like, reproductive freedom, women's health, things like that. And then when we started to dive into it, we were like, oh my God, this impacts everybody. Our community is very diverse. We have women from all backgrounds, LGBTQ, Black women, women with disabilities, AAPI. And as you go through Project 2025, you see that civil rights is being stripped away. You see that veterans' rights are being stripped away, disability, healthcare stripped away. And so it became very, very clear to us that there were so many things that impacted every single person in our community beyond women's this quote unquote specific women's rights that we really felt like we needed to start to get the information out. And we built the course before people were really talking about Project 2025. So we were kind of deep into it as people started to catch up and go like, what's this Project 2025 thing? We were like, oh, we know. So that was what inspired us to build the course.
I love that. I think that's just for me, like having a daughter, I think made me be like, oh my God, we all need to use whatever voice, whatever platform we have to ensure that, the next generation will be okay. But I think even in the aspects of just being a woman entrepreneur, right? Like there's a lot of language in that document that's really meant to take us back as women to not having the autonomy to make choices ourselves. Like I feel like it's casting us back to when we have to like ask our husbands to take out credit cards and sign business loans and, even own our own business. Like those are all rights that we had to work for as women. And I think that the way that they're trying to change just how the language in our Constitution is and how we speak about rights, it sounds very I don't know. I can't think of the word, like almost like the spooky guy, like the big scary like ghost in the room, right? But like this is really what it's leading to, and it could very logically like end up in a place where we don't have the right to own our business as women or hire employees or it's scary.
Yeah, I think that people think
I mean,
the whole I'm sorry,
point
go ahead.
the whole point of this is well, we
I got
never do
excited.
that.
I know. I got excited.
It's that it's the fight over a woman's right to choose is just the beginning.
Yeah.
It's just the excuse to control women's lives, because if women are pregnant, then they can't do other things. That's the philosophy, right? So
Yeah.
if you're constantly having babies, it's really hard to run a business. So
Yeah.
it's just the beginning step of controlling our lives. And like you say, where does it end? Does it end at that point where we need permission to get a credit card again? There's you listen to some of the things that J.D. Vance especially says about women, and, women over 50 don't need to worry about abortion because they're too old. It doesn't affect them. It's like, oh, but I am very much affected by women's health and women's rights in general, and it is my concern.
Well, and you also, I feel like as women, it's kind of ingrained in us. So they're trying to push on us that like women should be mothers, right? And then they forget in their own ideology that they're like, you people don't need to worry about this. No, as a 50-year-old woman, I still have like family members and people I'm related to and connected to that I genuinely care about. And just because I don't believe in all the crazy, right-wing Christian nonsense that you're pushing right now, doesn't mean that I don't feel connected to these other people and these other, because most of us, our roles as mother, doesn't matter how old you are, I would imagine. I mean, I'm only 34, but I can't imagine I'm going to feel like I love my kids any less at 50, or I'm going to be any less concerned about my grandchildren either.
Right.
Yeah, and also like
Amy, what were you going to say? Because you did get so excited.
I get so excited. I don't even remember now. I get so worked up about this. I apologize, everybody. But I'm very passionate about all this. One of the things that Nancy said about the debate last night was the vice presidential debate. And when women's reproductive rights came up, J.D. Vance just kept talking about family. And, Nancy and I will say, we're not anti-family. We're not anti-motherhood. We're not, we just want women to have a choice. And I thought it was interesting that, he just kept deflecting by saying, well, what we're going to do is we're going to support women so that they can have community and they can have their families and they can be, and it's like, okay, so let's now go to that extreme case, which happens more often than any of us care to think about the 12-year-old girl who's, um, experienced incest and is pregnant. So you're going to help her
Yeah.
build what family, what community around that baby, what community around having to carry that baby to term. So there's that element
Well,
of it for us.
and we
And
know that
also
doesn't
just,
mean anything.
sorry, what did you say?
We know that doesn't mean anything because they don't care about that baby once it's born.
No.
They don't care to make sure that, like, in Project 2025, right, they want to dismantle all of our safety nets that help these women to have these children. So you want to force us to not have birth control. You want to force us to not have access to, any means of ending a pregnancy, even if it's like, so someone just died, like, I think last week of an ectopic pregnancy that could have been avoided because an ectopic pregnancy would require an abortion for her to live. That baby isn't going to live, but you made her wait until you had to. And that's insane. This isn't about, like, that they can say it's about creating family, but it's not about creating family. If you read the document, it literally said too in there, like, the whole dismantling of IVF is because it's only their version of a family.
Right.
They don't want LGBTQ people raising families. They even said that 3 parent creation systems in the embryonic personhood. Basically, if you're a man and a woman and you're married, and they agree with this, right? They want you guys to have children, but one of you can't. They don't think that you should have access to sperm donors or egg donors to help you create your family that you want, right? Like, they're not about family. They're about control. And if, like you were saying in the beginning, if they control they take away our ability to control family planning, women we're not going to be able to get further in society because we're going to be bound by the kids and pregnancy. And then we do have to worry about rape and incest and all of these things more, because in DV situations, I mean, you want to talk about how to ultimately control a woman if she has no ability to make sure that you can't force her to stay in that relationship. Sorry, I'm on my soapbox.
And then, like you said, they don't care about that child after it's born. They strip away all of the social services so that these women that were forced to have children that they couldn't afford or whatever their circumstances, they have no means to support the child. So then we're not only always pregnant and controlled that way, but we're also poor. So, it impacts women in marginalized communities the most. And those are the women that need those social services to help support the family. And so when they say they're helping to support the family, they're full of crap, because you don't.
And I want to say we're poor and unhealthy because there are no doctors who want to treat us at all because they're afraid that if they do one thing wrong, they're going to end up in jail.
Yeah. That's an unfortunate reality. And then they'll put it back and say, like, oh, well, the doctors are just interpreting that wrong. I have an episode that is running the week before where it literally broke down in Project 2025, all of anywhere where it said the word abortion. I read it out for our listeners for them to hear. And it discussed in there that specific thing. And it's just mind boggling to me how they don't
care.
Sorry, guys.
Yeah.
True.
They don't care.
No.
They don't care. So I know for me, one of the things that I was really excited about is the possibility of an equal rights amendment to ensure that the things listed out in Project 2025, like the Comstock Act and these survival of unborn fetus, the unalive child, and all of these crazy things they can't actually put through. I did find a petition and that I'm sharing, but you guys, I know, have been at this a heck of a lot longer than me because I was busy being pregnant and popping a baby out while all this craziness was going on. So I really wanted to bring you guys on to tell people where else they can go to support, to share, to spread the word and get our rights codified in the Constitution.
Yeah. I mean, I think that we all need to start by electing a female president who will make that happen. I think Kamala will ensure that that gets done finally. And we also need to vote our local, our state representatives. Those, congressional seats, if you are in a state where there is a close race and we can get a Democrat in to Congress, get out and knock on doors for the next 4 weeks, because we need to get as many people on our side as possible for that. I mean, it's there. It's just waiting for the final approval, and the ERA will be law. And then I think I think the biggest way we're going to see change is just by grassroots organizations like the Passionistas Project and a lot of amazing organizations that are out there where together as a unified force, we can make our voices heard and we can ensure that people in positions of power understand how important this is to us. We have to be considered equal under the eyes of the law, and we're not. We're not in the Constitution. It doesn't say women have the same rights as men, and it's ridiculous. It's 2024. It's almost 2025, and it needs to be done. So, I would say sign petitions like the one you have, call your representatives. It's so easy now to get the information, to call or text your representatives. We, in our sisterhood, we publish a daily newsletter from a woman named Jess Craven, which is called Chop Wood, Carry Water, and it's daily action items for people who want to get involved in politics. And a lot of that is contacting your representatives so that information is available. And then join groups like the Passionistas Project or something that speaks to you. We have a ton of resources there. In the 2025 course, we have a complete resource list for women's rights, but also LGBTQ rights, disability rights, any topic that you can think of that might appeal to you. We list a bunch of great organizations that are out there doing the work every day that you can join, whatever issue. As one of our Power Passionistas, Crystal Lanise Walker, says, like, we can't do it all. So pick your lane. What is the thing that you're most passionate about? If it's the ERA, then, join women's groups and make that happen. So, but do something, I mean, we can't. Nancy and I have been working tirelessly since 2016 on this stuff because we woke up the day after Trump beat Hillary feeling like we didn't do enough. And we're not waking up that way this year. If God forbid the worst thing happens, we'll know we did our part. We did what we could. So I just, implore everybody to do that so they wake up that morning feeling like I had a part in this victory, is what I hope you feel.
Yeah.
But, now is the time. There's no more, this silly as it is, there's no time like present. Like, go out and do it. Make calls, knock on doors, call your
We're going to
representative.
be less than a month out by the time this airs. Yeah. So please call your representative. Nance, what were you going to say? Because I see you nodding.
Oh, I'm just nodding in agreement. I absolutely agree. I was going to bring up the resource list that we have in our course, and I do encourage everyone to go to the Sisterhood. You can sign up for free and take the course. It's a really great compilation of just all sorts of different news reports and things about Project 2025 and how it affects everyone. Obviously, we're impacted and concentrating mostly on women's rights, but we go through all of the different people, from veterans to minorities to immigrants and everyone who's affected by it. It touches every single one of our lives in some way. It's not just about women. It's not just about abortion. It touches every single person's life in this country, and they are not aware of it. So I encourage you all to go watch the course and check out the list of resources. And like Amy said, pick your lane, pick the one thing that you want to do for the next 30 days and do that. And let's win this thing.
I highly agree with you, ladies. I did watch the course. I love how it was broken down and that it wasn't just focused on women's rights, because I think that one, even though I'm a woman, I'm also passionate about many of the other things. There are multiple things in that document, and even watching that course, that I was like, this is infuriating. How is this happening? This isn't real. But it is, and like, like you said, it's everyone's rights. And if you have a particular thing that you're passionate about, you can just go through and be like, okay, there's a section on LGBT rights. There's a section on how this is affecting healthcare. There's a section on, it's really broken down and user friendly. And also, I think it's a great way. I don't know if you guys have said this out to the sisterhood yet, but to like target certain people, if they don't give a rat's behind about women's rights, but they're really going to care about the overtime stuff that's in there.
Right.
You can send that out to them.
Yeah,
Like it's a good way to get some.
Yeah, that's part of the reason we did it the way we did it, was because it's like, Medicare, really? Medicare is not going to impact more people, as many people on the other side of the aisle as it does us. Veterans' rights aren't going to, they're going to declassify PTSD. PTSD is not going to be a covered benefit for veterans. So there's so much.
Do you know?
There's so much.
Do you know how? Because I know you told me that the last time we were talking, I was like, oh, that's going to be another deep dive that I'm going to have to do just on that alone. But can you give like a brief overview of like how do they plan on? Are they taking away the diagnosis, or they're just going to say we're not covering this anymore?
They're reclassifying what they will cover under the veterans benefits. They're deciding what are covered benefits and what aren't. And PTSD is being discussed as one of the things that would not be considered a health issue that needs to be covered. I believe, I'm pretty sure I didn't just make this up, but I believe that the kind of quote floating around is like, yeah, that's not really you get over that. You get over the PTSD things. It's not a long-term thing that needs to be covered. So,
no, I mean, to be honest, the VA does a pretty horrible job as it is with our veterans addressing their PTSD and mental health issues. I have, family and friends that were in the service. I actually spoke with a girl I went to high school with, and she was like, yeah, they only give you X amount of sessions per treatment. And like, if it doesn't work, it doesn't work. And you're, SOL if it doesn't work out. And that the way our system is set up for mental health is already so severely like limiting for our veterans. It does not provide them the services that they actually need. So then to say basically like, oh yeah, no, we're not going to cover this at all. Like that's crazy town, because a lot of these people, PTSD, some people can't hold down a job for a while until they get their nervous system regulated again and their brain back functioning. Like, and these are people that underwent this trauma to serve our country, to protect our rights, to protect us. And we're not going to make sure that we can take care of them. Like, I don't know what America this is speaking to. Like, where did this come from, ladies? Like, have I been in a hole?
Yeah. Well, I mean, tell her about the Crystal Missy event, Nan.
Yeah, I was just going to say, part of the course is we had 3 live sessions with Crystal Lenise Walker and Dr. Melissa Bird, who are 2 of our power Passionistas. And the very first session, they talk about how we got here. And they go way back in history. This isn't just Donald Trump. This isn't just Ronald Reagan. This goes way back. This goes way back to the people landing on this country and eradicating the Native Americans. This is way back. It's in our blood. It's, in our history, and we need to realize the roots of it before we can get rid of all of this craziness in our country. And, so yeah, I highly recommend people watch that first session with them too, because it's pretty mind-blowing.
Yeah, the systematic,
it really, really was.
Yeah, the systematic racism and patriarchy, and I mean it really, and even if you just want to break out reproductive rights, Dr. Bird, who is brilliant, her background was working, a lobbyist for Planned Parenthood 20 years ago. And she actually wrote her thesis on this and posted a document about 3 months ago in the Sisterhood that's still up there. That's like her thesis on this exact plan rolling out and stripping women of their reproductive rights, and then how that would spiral into everything else. And she wrote it 20, 25 years ago. And you read it and it's like, yeah, she knew it was coming, because she tells us regularly there's a playbook that the radical, Republican faction had
Right.
that thick
Yeah.
25 years ago that she read that laid all this out. They didn't just come up with this 6 weeks ago. They've been brilliantly
No, I
planning
mean,
to change the Supreme Court, the makeup of the Supreme Court, and, it's say what you will, it's been a long game, and they've been brilliant at it, and now we're all feeling
yeah.
the effect.
If you look at that Supreme Court, right, like the justices that were replaced, there was only 3 that were replaced by Trump. There were other justices that were replaced long before them that were picks from the Heritage Project. So like this is a long-term strategy. They have been buying up our politicians. They're systematically like dismantling our laws. Like corporations are people. All the way back when I was I was still like a baby just out of high school when that happened. That was part of it, because then they knew they can get all the money that they needed into politics, and that they could basically buy elections. I mean, this has been slowly, you're right, it's a slow burn. But I think that's also why it's so important for us to wake up. And the last time, I don't think Trump thought he would win last time. I think that, I don't even think that he really thought that was going to happen. So there was no plan. There was no, like, this is what we're going to do. I mean, he had plenty of concepts of plans, ladies, but no real plans. Still working on those real plans, just concepts now. But that's what makes this so scary, right? Is the Heritage Project, the last time he was in office, he did 60% of what they proposed, right? And he was disorganized and had people on his administration that were opposed to these things, right? So they put barriers in place. They plan on coming in and just like clearing house, including people that have been in, nonpartisan civil service jobs for decades, just clearing house so that everyone in there is just going to be ready to sign on to whatever they want. And they're giving him like a list of this is the plan and this is where it is. And that's what makes this 10 times more scary for me, because it's like, okay, yeah, he didn't get to do it last time because he didn't have all the pieces together, but he learned from his mistakes. And whatever you'll say about him, he's not a stupid man. He is an abhorrent man. He is a lot of not nice words that I could say, but he is not stupid. He is an intelligent man that knows how to manipulate people, knows what to say to charm people, and he knows, how to play the game. And especially if someone's laying it out for him, he doesn't even care what the plan is as long as it ends with him still being in charge.
Well, that's the thing. I think that this plan has been in place for a long time. These systems have been in the works, and Trump came along just at the right moment for them as their mouthpiece, who will do anything they want as long as he's in power. He doesn't really care what gets acted out and what happens. He just wants to be in power. So he just came along, the right place, right time. He's the perfect puppet for them.
And I want to say, not only that, they don't just have a list of people that will do the work. They've built basically a LinkedIn for people who are qualified to do that work, who are up for his agenda. And they have a training academy. So once you get hired, you go into the training academy and you learn exactly what the agenda is and how it's to be executed. So that's, the plan. There's a 180 page, beginning of this is what we're going to do first, that they won't even release because they don't want anybody to know what that is. Then they fire everybody, like you said, they hire everybody and then they train them. So this, again, like maniacally brilliantly planned out, and all the elements are in place to execute it now.
Well, and what he's doing too on his side is it's funny that JD Vance called him cultural heroin, because it's really what he is. It really is, because he's just poisoning the public, right? They're systematically making it so that the half of our country does not believe that facts are facts. I mean, they started with Kelly Conway and alternative facts. But they believe now that these alternative facts are really just like, this is an alternative viewpoint. And it's like, no, I don't understand how we got half the country to believe that there are facts, and then there's fiction that we just push as facts. But people don't know the difference. And because he is chipping away at our faith in our systems, like, you can't, well, I'm going to drain the swamp. He brought in more frigging corporate cronies than anyone else, but whatever. But he'll tell them all the things. It's like, he's such a narcissist. It's so much gaslighting, guys. I'm going to let someone speak, because I'm going to get on my soapbox again.
We're with you. We're with you 100%. I don't get it. I mean, we watch Fox. It's interesting. We watch Fox in my house in rotation with the other networks, just to see what's being said, kind of mentally prepare.
Yeah, I think that's important.
I understand how, if you start to buy into the concepts of the plans, that you believe it, because they speak it as if this is the reality. And I say to Nancy all the time, like, I'm sure that, I'm just getting my version of that on CNN and MSNBC, and I'm getting the liberal side of it, which is the other extreme. But at least I feel like the liberal side, if I am getting brainwashed, I'm getting brainwashed to care about people having health care and to care about people having reproductive rights. And I feel like if it is brainwashing on this side, at least it's, empathetic brainwashing. I don't get how you can look at the other side and be like, oh yeah, that's a good idea. Let's take healthcare away from everybody. Yeah, I can get behind that. Let's keep the automatic assault rifles out on the street. Yeah, I can. That's a good idea. Like, I just don't understand,
I feel like with Fox,
but Trump saved Obamacare, Amy. Didn't you hear JD Vance say that last night?
Don't even get me started.
They rewrite everything. Trump was, they were saying that he didn't say something that he literally said, like, it was like only a few months ago, but they change history all the time. They just change facts again, because it doesn't fit their narrative. But yeah, Fox will literally they do the bread and the circus. So there's, you guys know about the Romans? So the Roman Empire, the way that they kept everyone happy is they would be like, look over here, and here's some food. When shit got really bad, they're like, yeah, just look over here. Don't pay attention to what we're doing over here. We don't want you to see that. And that's essentially what Trump has done his entire time that he's been running, right? And it worked really well in 2016. It worked really well to be like, oh, I'm going to say something super outlandish, so all of my supporters are going to be like, he didn't mean it that way. Like, he, and, as a New Yorker, I can say, I know a lot of men that do talk like that, or I'm not condoning the way, I'm not talking about the bus scene guys. I'm talking about the, sarcastic, or like, will say things and they don't really mean it, that he's just annoyed or frustrated in the moment. But I think that's not him. And he does mean, like, what he says to people half the time is either entirely just like falsehoods, and it doesn't align with it just doesn't align with his actions. If you look at what he does and what he says, 9 times out of 10, they don't add up. And you can go back even in like the past year and look at just totally contradictory statements of what he wants to do. It's nuts.
Well, and it's all in
and
his
then people
mind,
wonder why they believe it.
Yeah, to me, in his mind, it's all ratings, whether ratings is votes or ratings is money or whatever. It's all popularity and ratings. So he'll actually say, because we also watch a lot of his rallies too, he'll also say, like, yeah, we got to get trans women out of sports. We got to get them, men out of the women's sports. The trans thing. Yeah, everybody loves it when I say this. I don't even really care. Like, he'll say it. I don't even really care. But everybody's eating it up. So I'm just going to keep talking about it.
Yeah.
It's like, he doesn't care about any issue.
No.
He only cares about his ratings however he quantifies that.
Well, and he cares about the perception, right? And he doesn't care about the perception of everyone, just the people that he feels like need to be loyal to him. And I think what the general American public has to really understand is he's made statements about like there won't need to be future elections. Two is he's told his own voters, supporters not to vote. Like if you're telling them not to vote and it's such a close election, you don't see Kamala Harris saying don't vote. And that's not because she thinks that Donald Trump is super wonderful or that, it's you need to vote. You don't discourage people from supporting your candidacy unless that's not your goal of becoming president, which they're already setting this whole thing up. And it breaks my heart because I feel like if he wins, that would be devastating. But I feel like it's still going to be a big shock to our system when he doesn't win, because I feel like they're already setting this up to be another Jan 6th, another what they just did in Georgia of, changing the voting regulations so that they're not going to be able to make those deadlines more than likely because you've made it so that they have to hand count things. And because now they miss this deadline that's arbitrarily set, they have the bounds to say like, oh, well, these shouldn't be counted because it wasn't in the time frame that our state decided that it should be in. But they literally set themselves up for failure so that they can junk up this whole process and claim foul again. And I just don't understand if you really have the support of the American people, and then why would you need this backup plan? And why is anyone in support of someone who's designing this backup plan? It doesn't seem like a backup plan. It seems like the plan.
Yeah. 100%.
Yeah, speechless.
Yeah.
I wish I could tell you why, because I have no idea. Because they're being fed lies. I mean, that's why. Because they don't hear those realities. They hear the lies, and they believe them.
Well, and the way that
if you listened to J.D. Vance last night in the debate, and you didn't know any of the facts that he was talking about, he seemed like a perfectly reasonable, kind person who cares about the country and who cares about women and who cares about, people who are struggling to pay their bills. And he cares about all of those things. He's just a wonderful man. But if you actually know the things that he was saying and how much of it was lies, then you know how evil he really is behind that mask of this nice guy.
He was a very good politician last night. That's what I will say. I watched it and I was like, oh, wow, he didn't go for his usual remarks. But I think that was strategic, and just J.D. Vance is also very, very intelligent, and he is the ultimate con man grifter. Like, to go from saying what he used to say about this man to being his running mate and backing all of these crazy claims that he's making. J.D. Vance doesn't care about any of this, just like Trump. He's like, oh, if I'm the VP, then I'm the next in line, and I'm friends with your son, and I'm going to, boost my name. And like the man is married to an Indian woman and has biracial children and doesn't have anything to say about all this rhetoric. Like, I just want our listeners here, we focus a lot on intergenerational trauma. Poor J.D. Vance's kids, man. Poor J.D. Vance's kids are going to need some serious therapy because their father is out there spewing this hateful rhetoric, talking about, what the ideal family system should look like. He's spewing what all these hateful old Christian white men are saying, that this is the way the family should look, which is not biracial families. He's spewing all of it and then just like negating the fact that like these people are also saying the same junk about your kids and your wife. And he's like, no, it doesn't apply to me. It's fine. It's fine. It's like, how do people think that that's authentic? Like, look at that man's life. Do you really think he believes what he's preaching to you? Because who he married and what his everyday life is does not align with the bullshit that he's telling you.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
We agree. No, we get it. We get it.
It's so infuriating. But yes, I loved your course on Project 2025. I really encourage everyone to watch it because I do feel like the best way for us to get out the vote is really, even if all of us just contact like one or two people that we know are on the fence and we push them into the right direction, right? you don't have to love either or Kamala Harris and Tim Walz. Like, honestly, I am socially very liberal, but I feel like I'm a Bernie Sanders liberal. Like, I am one of those crazy business people. So I honestly feel like even, the corporate Democrats, a lot of it on the left, like MSNBC, is still a lot of that, like, look over here, pay attention to this, because we're still not getting most of those benefits. And it's going to the people at the top that have the most money, which I think is a problem. And I don't think that this presidency is going to fix everything.
Right.
But I do think that it is definitely going to fix some of it. And it's a step in the right direction. And to make the opposite choice is literally to put us in a world of utter hurt and chaos that I don't know how long it'll take us to undo the damage that it's caused, because it's still taking us time to undo what was done in the 4 years of his presidency, and that ended 3 years ago. So how do we not do this again? We have to all contact everyone that we know and push them in the right direction. And it's not saying everything is sunshine and rainbows, but there's good and evil, guys. And I really feel like in this state, it's really like, no. There's no other choice that's going to make sure that the majority of Americans have their rights protected. But anything else that you girls would like to share?
I just want to say the Project 2025 course is free to anybody who joins the free membership. Normally, we are exclusively for a community for women and gender nonconforming, non-binary people, but we actually have duplicated the course into an allies section so that men can come and specifically go into this space and watch the course as well, because we know that there are so many amazing men out there who support women in the reproductive rights space, but also just how much this impacts them as well. So men are welcome to join the sisterhood for free, and we will put them into this space where they can watch the course. And anybody else who wants to watch it, it's 100% free to join and 100% free to take the course. We're going to keep it up for as long as we need to, as we're constantly reminded, even if when we elect Kamala, of this Project 2025 agenda is not going to go away. So we need to continue to educate people even after the election. So this course is going to stay up there. But we really encourage people to watch it before the election in less than a month, and really remind everybody in your lives how much it's going to impact them as well.
Yep.
Yeah. Thank you, Amy. I very much agree. I think that everyone should definitely watch the course. I think that everyone should join the sisterhood, because there is a free membership for all women to join. And I think especially with how, no matter what happens in a month from now, we're all going to be in our fields. And I think, it's a really great community of women who are supportive. And it's not just, lefty liberals over there too. You guys do have some people on the other side of the aisle as well. But what's really nice about their community is there's no hate speech. Everyone's just trying to understand one another and come together and support one another. So it is a place that you can go, even if you don't agree with all the passion in that I have about this. It's a great place to find other women to help you feel supported and uplifted, and also has a ton of other great courses and resources on there that you do have to pay for, but are totally worth it. Can you guys give our listeners how they can get to your website and the best way to contact you?
Yeah, sure. So the best thing to do is go to thepassionistasproject.com. There's a tab for the sisterhood, so you can go there and join the free or the premium membership. And then also you can contact us through that website or all of the socials, thepassionistasproject.com. Feel free to DM us and reach out to us that way.
Thank you guys so much for being on today. I just want to remind our listeners that you guys are good enough. Till next time. Hey guys, so I wanted to follow up on something we discussed in the episode earlier with Nancy and Amy. in regards to Project 2025 and PTSD for veterans. So specifically, it does not name PTSD. I literally search the document. Anyone could do that. There's no words of PTSD or even really much on veterans benefits, but I think it's deliberate. But I did find this, which is, I believe, what everyone is talking about. So let me share with you where it is. Okay. So this is on page 649 of Project 2025, under the section on veterans. Okay, so it's under Department of Veteran Affairs, written by Brooks Tucker. So on this page, which was okay, page 649. The VA schedule for rating disability, VASRD, has assigned disability ratings to a growing number of health conditions over time, some tenuously related or wholly unrelated to military service. The further growth in presumptive service-connected medical conditions pursued by Congress and veteran services organizations, begun with Agent Orange and most recently for burn pits, airborne toxins, has led to historic increases in mandatory VBA spending in recent years. The VA has a time phase plan to reassess the the Veteran Administration schedule for rating disabilities and its ratings for compensation, but this internal process can be slow and laborious. Okay. The main line that people are most concerned about is this top line right under budget. The VA schedule for rating disabilities has assigned disability rates to a growing number of health conditions over time. Some are tenuously related or wholly unrelated to military service. So the concern here, guys, is if they are saying, again, and their language is vague, but it's deliberately vague. If you think about just how health insurance companies at this point deny claims, or even the Social Security Administration denies benefits at present time, it's because you have to prove it. So they're trying to make it so that I understand why people are concerned about PTSD, because PTSD is a mental health disorder, and you can have mental health issues long before exposure to what they went through in the military. And if we're being honest, a lot of people join the military because their family lives aren't great, and they likely, I would assume, but let me pause for a second and check, guys. ACEs scores, military. Yeah. So in one study for ACEs, which is an assessment that measures adverse childhood experiences, and it's pretty much the standard for measuring trauma in childhood. And research shows that the higher your ACEs scores, the more likely you are to have adverse outcomes in adulthood. So just by that alone, if we're talking about they're trying to say that their PTSD diagnosis can't be fully pinned on the military, just like they were trying to say that emphysema or mesothelioma could not be pinned on 9/11 entirely on 9/11. If you were a smoker, if you did this, if you did that, it was very hard for people to achieve benefits through New York because we had a 9/11 fund because of pre-existing conditions, or what they consider to be other I shouldn't say pre-existing conditions. It's hard to obtain those benefits because they're saying there are other outside forces that could have caused that. So, you having been exposed to trauma at an earlier age, or being predisposed to depression or anxiety or any of those things, they're saying that basically if you're predisposed to that, we can't say that you have PTSD because of your military service for certain, which is pretty much true in mental health. I mean, we can't say it's not one thing, it's everything. So if they were to be able to change that language, it would make it a lot easier for them to deny benefits. In Project 2025, they're also saying that they want to outsource processing of benefits. They are claiming that this is to expedite the process. But I will tell you that, again, I don't think we want corporations. One, I don't think we should be outsourcing anything in the VA to corporate America. I don't think that that goes well. Corporatizing healthcare hasn't gone well for the general American public, so I don't know why we think that would be going well for our veterans. But if we're outsourcing claim denials, and they mentioned in there something about using technology to scan through claims faster so that they are approved or denied sooner, that also means there's a lot more room for human error. And they're looking for it's essentially they're going to put in those words that if the AI bot picks up on it, it's an automatic denial, right? So again, by using that language, what they're saying is they want to make it harder for people to actually access those disability benefits. And the document does go on to say how much money this is costing the federal government to support these veterans. But I don't know about you guys, but I honestly feel like if you served our country for any length of time, you deserve healthcare for the rest of your life, because there was no guarantee that they were going to come back to this country with their life. And I think that as an American, I value that sacrifice, that they left their family, that they put their lives in harm's way, even for a short period of time. Again, I specialize in intergenerational trauma. That absence of the trauma that they went through over there, all of that has significant effects on them, on their families, on their children, and it can take years to repair that. So, if we're and the stress that they undergo, like stress does have an effect on our body, guys. Like, so chronic stress causes us to have more health problems. So if we're going to have soldiers that we're putting under chronic stress and then say, we don't think that these health issues directly are connected to your military service. No, but it contributed to it. And they're still deserving of our support in making sure that their health needs can be met, because they gave substantial sacrifice for our country and are likely, I mean, many veterans that I know are still dealing with the consequences of things that they saw while they were there, and people that they lost while they were there. And that has profound consequences, or things that they missed while they were there, like the birth of their children or special events. Like that has an impact on people. And it is a major sacrifice. And it's not a crazy idea to give these people healthcare. Hell, I mean, in other countries, you wouldn't need a veteran to be a veteran to just get healthcare for the rest of your life. But that's where we are here. And they want to take that away from our veterans. And that is concerning. But I did want to just clarify that there was no specific mention of PTSD, because I do not want to contribute to the disinformation. But there is that specific line that is basically saying that they, let me pull that up again. That specific line that says some are tenuously related or wholly unrelated to military service. And, inserting that kind of language to make it that it has to be proven that whatever health condition that they have is entirely 100% a result of their military service would make it very, very difficult for veterans to obtain benefits for a PTSD diagnosis. I can say that as a therapist. Anyone who has PTSD, even with military service, a lot of the times they have very chaotic childhoods, and they didn't come from the best of circumstances. And most of them joined the military at 18 to better their lives, right? So they didn't come from stable, loving homes and had great beliefs about themselves and great mental health to begin with. And now we send them off to war and we say, oh, well, you were screwed up before you left for war, so we're not going to help you with that. Like, that's not how America should be. And it's upsetting. And it speaks to where their values are. I mean, this document says a lot about how they want to support veterans and how they want to, make the VA a great place to work and recruit people into military service. But what they're really selling is, come work for us. And once you're gone, we don't they want to run the military like it's a job, right? And it is a job, but it's such an immense sacrifice that we already give them, we have the GI Bill, we have certain benefits that come with taking that job because it is such a difficult job and it is such a dangerous job and it is such an important job. And it's one that people take because they generally care about our country and want to serve our country. And they see that as an honor. And for us to say like, oh, well, we appreciate your service, but, your lung issues are because you're a smoker, not because of the burn pits, or, your PTSD is because you were in a, horrible car accident and you got treatment when you were younger for that. And that's probably more what it was related to, anything that they can use to say, we don't have to pay out for you. Like, again, actions speak louder than words. You can say in here that you want to make life better for our veterans. But if you are trying to make it easier for them to be denied disability benefits, not really sure that your actions are lining up with that. And I think that's really important for our viewers to know. Again, please visit the Passionista. Take the time, guys, to do your research, to know what is actually going on, what is actually being said, and share it with whoever you can, because this election is really crucial for just the future of not only America, but the rest of the world. Like, because these policies do affect the rest of the world as well, like wanting to pull out of NATO. Like, that would, everyone keeps saying that, it's going to be better if he's in office because Russia and respects him and will listen to him. Russia doesn't respect him. Like, Russia manipulates him. Like, if Vladimir Putin was smart enough to say to him, like, hey, don't tell people you sent me those COVID tests because it's not going to go over well for you, buddy. Like, he's Trump's friend. He's not Trump's adversary. He is our adversary, but Trump views him as a friend. And it's a significant concern when his personal opinions of people and his preferences and how he wants to connect himself, like, if the rest of the world knew that America was sending COVID tests to one of our adversaries while our citizens and our allies were struggling with access to that, like, that reflects on us as a country, guys. Like, that's important. And I don't think that, Trump has Putin, wrapped around his finger. I think it's the other way around. I think Putin has Trump wrapped around his finger, and, Trump won't release what he wants to do with Ukraine because although he has said in the past that he thinks that they should just sign a deal and Ukraine would give over territory because he sides with Putin. That's not going to happen. Ukraine's not going to agree to that. And Russia's not going to stop there. I mean, there's been multiple other countries that they've done that, and then they take more land and they take more land, and they know what's coming and they're not going to agree to that. It's a lot. It's heavy. And I know that most of us don't want to think about this, or I feel like we can't even think about it. And if that's you, I totally understand. But at the same time, it is so important to the future of the world, really, our children, ourselves, that we all do our best to make sure that these things don't happen, that our reproductive rights aren't further compromised than they already currently are, that our veterans are not having to worry that it's going to be more difficult to obtain the benefits that they need to survive because of complications they had from serving our country, which we promised them that we would take care of them if they served our country. That is a promise we make to our veterans, and we need to honor our promises. It's literally what the PACT Act is about. Also finding it really, really interesting that there's an entire group of people that claim to be, for America and for veterans and for our military. And in there, they're talking about ways to make it more difficult for military personnel to utilize the benefits that they have. There's also some stuff in here about outsourcing TRICARE to, which is currently the military insurance, expanding that even more to privatized insurance. And that is also concerning because privatized insurance, again, their goal is to make money, not to create healthy people. That's the reality, guys. If we look at the bottom line of all of these health organizations, be it Cigna, Blue Cross Blue Shield, United Healthcare, Aetna, they're making crazy, crazy amounts of profits and denying people access to care every day. The name of their game is, bring in more money than they put out. It's a business. And it's a Fortune 500 business that sells on stocks. So they want their shareholders to be happy. And their priority is not going to be making sure that these people are getting access to the care that they need, because it's not their priority. Their priority is making money. And I get that every business's priority is making money. And that doesn't mean they don't care about people. But I think if we're going to outsource to the same healthcare giants that have already shown us, like United Healthcare denies more claims than anyone. I can tell you as a medical provider, everyone will talk about how they dread, United Healthcare is known for their clawbacks, for their, they want more access to your notes so they can have a basis to deny your claims. They are one of those companies that is known to do that. And we want to outsource our VA benefits to them. Like that doesn't sound like a very good idea. It sounds like a cost-effective idea for the government, but it doesn't sound like quality healthcare for our veterans. And I think that that's important for us to remember and to understand. Again, one of the things I think that people need to recognize is it's not just what things say, right? We can't go by what someone says only, or what we, like, even if it's a person that you trust and they're giving you this information, maybe you've watched the same news channel forever and you really trust this person, you need to also check facts. And if what they're saying is not aligning with what they're doing, that's really important for us to know. I was talking to my dad about this the other day because he's a retired corrections officer and my brother's an NYPD cop. And I was telling him like they're planning on, taking some shots at the PACT Act. And that really helped a lot of our people here in New York after, the 9/11 fund is starting to dry up. And, my dad had no idea, because my family's diehard Republicans and, most people in the police, fire, or corrections department in New York City are diehard Republicans, which is weird because they're unions, but whatever, I digress. He had no idea because the information he gets is like, yeah, we're all about cops, but like what the policies that they're putting in place are not supporting you. The policies, I mean, especially all these people in New York, I mean, the policies that they're putting in place are there to undermine unions. And that's part of the reason why, our civil service people in New York are one of the highest paid in the country, because we have unions. So that they get their raises and they have access to protective equipment, and they have what they need to keep themselves safe. I mean, so it's just remember to look not just at what's being said, but and not take it at face value, right? Like it would have been really easy for me to leave that interview and be like, yeah, they're coming after PTSD too, and Nancy and Amy told me, and I trust them, and I do trust them. They're great humans. I know them. I trust what they say, but even they did say, I haven't seen it myself, but I heard this. And as someone who's trying to be responsible, especially because I'm sharing information with you guys, it was really important for me to go and see, like, okay, is this actually in the document? Is this actually true? Because I don't want to perpetuate more information that is false. Again, as we went through, you can see why people are concerned that would specifically affect PTSD. And there are a lot of veterans that are service connected for PTSD. And therefore they wouldn't have to pay those benefits over time, decreasing the budget. But it doesn't actually say the words PTSD. There's nothing in this doc. And I think that's important for us on the opposite side to understand too, is like, we really have to do our due diligence and understand what is something that we feel like or that the sources of information that we're getting feel like, hey, when they're saying these disabilities are tenuously related or wholly unrelated to their military service, this is what this means. But I think it's really important that we don't go out and say they're saying this when it doesn't specifically say those words, because again, we're back to the bread and the circus. And when we say Project 2025 says they're going to, not give veterans with a PTSD diagnosis disability benefits, that is false, right? It doesn't say that. But it is saying that they're trying to make the language and the rules different so that unless it's like, you blew your arm off in service, and we can directly connect that to your military service, that they have more of a reason not to approve these benefits and these disability benefits and pay and services to these veterans. And, just because there, first off, as a therapist, there are many, many disabilities, and mental health can be a significant debilitating diagnosis for some people. While they are in recovery, they cannot function. And making people not have access to the things that they need, like healthcare or finances, because if they can't function and they're no longer at the VA because they are having so many flashbacks and nightmares and dissociation episodes and all of the things that come with PTSD, or they're explosive, and they can't work anymore. Well, if we're saying that that's not 100% related, then they don't have income, and that's going to stress them out further. And we're talking about mental health here, guys. So mental health, if you're in a more stressful situation, which you don't have access to your finances, it's going to be worse off for you. So again, this whole document, I said the last time I read through it, they said ideological. It's ideological, and not based on facts. And that's pretty much what this is. This is just their ideology, and it's packaged very nicely. I mean, if you read the veterans section, I read through the whole thing, like scrolling for PTSD, and did I miss something? And it's literally just that one line that has some people very concerned, understandably, because the rest of it sounds good. But it's, again, if you keep reading over it, it's like, oh, but they're actually implying this, and it's packaged nicely. And just because something is packaged nicely does not mean that when you unwrap it, it's going to be what you want. Think about those Supreme Court justices that were put on it's given to the states, is packaged nicely. The execution of that is not what any of us want, right? But packaging things nicely is something that politicians do. So on both sides, you have to go through and see, is this actually what they're fighting for, or is it not? Do their words and their actions align? I really hope you guys have enjoyed this content. I really, really hope you learned something new today, and encourage you to reach out to the Passionistas Project and join their sisterhood, because it is really a lovely place to be. And I hope you all have a great week. Until next time, I want to remind you that you are good enough.
Thank you for listening to Good Enough with the Trauma Therapist. We appreciate you listening. While our host may provide some personal and professional advice, we want to remind you that this show is for entertainment purposes only. Each individual situation is unique, and Good Enough is not a substitute for mental health treatment. If you need a therapist and are located in New York or Missouri, feel free to reach out to us at liendr.com or resilient-mo.com.